You ever wake up to the sound of your grandfather's dreams being shredded by steel teeth? The kind of noise that crawls inside your ribs and nests there like a splinter you can't dig out no matter how hard you try? That was me, Jack Harlan, 54 years old, third-generation rancher, standing barefoot on my warped porch boards at 6 in the morning, coffee turning bitter and cold in my grip, while a yellow backhoe chewed straight through the pecan grove Elias planted the year I came into this world, kicking and screaming. Every tree a living photograph of a man who believed dirt plus sweat plus stubbornness could equal forever. The air was still night cool but already thick with diesel and torn earth, hydraulic arms screaming like banshees, roots snapping with wet cracks that sounded too much like bones, and I just stood there in nothing but boxers and boots, heart hammering so hard I felt it in my teeth, watching 40-year-old trunks topple like soldiers cut down in a war nobody declared. The foreman hopped down from his machine, hard hat tilted back, waving a permit like it was the 10 Commandments etched in county ink, signed in looping cursive by Lydia Wentworth, president of the Silver Pines HOA. Real estate queen with a smile sharp enough to shave with, and a white Range Rover that probably cost more than my granddad paid for all 80 acres back in 1957 when he came home from Korea with discharge papers in one pocket and $9,000 cash in the other. They were shoving a 48-inch corrugated steel pipe across 600 feet of my land like it was a public sidewalk, turning my creek, the same creek my cattle had drunk from since Truman was president, into a chemical sewer for their golf course runoff, fertilizer, chlorine, grass clippings, diesel residue, the whole toxic stew. Compensation? $8,000, non-negotiable, take it or leave it, delivered with the kind of smirk that says we already know you'll take it, because what choice do you have, old man? Lydia stood there in pressed khakis and $1,000 boots that had never seen real mud, lips curled in that way powerful people do when they're certain you're already beaten, and she had no clue, not the faintest whisper, that I'd been playing a game so long and so quiet she hadn't even been born when I started sliding the pieces into place. See, 15 years ago, when the drought turned this county into a skillet hot enough to fry hope itself, I quietly bought a failing water utility called Blue Ridge Water Company for $340,000 I'd scraped together selling off equipment I didn't want to sell and borrowing against land I swore I'd never mortgage. I folded it into Elias Trust Holdings LLC, hired a sharp young manager named Darius to run the day-to-day, and erased my name from every public record a person could think to check. No press release, no ribbon cutting, no bragging over coffee at the diner. Because in Texas, water isn't just wet, it's currency, it's control, it's the kind of power that doesn't need a billboard or a campaign ad. And Blue Ridge now feeds 14 towns across 3 counties, including the sparkling new Silver Pines estates, 350 homes with marble foyers and retirees pretending they're ranchers on weekends, all of them drinking, showering, watering their perfect lawns with water that runs through pipes I own and valves I can turn with a single phone call. 5 years earlier, when the developer broke ground on Silver Pines, Lydia saw my weathered barn, my peeling paint, my rusted windmill spinning lazy circles in the breeze, and she saw dollar signs dressed up as progress. 3 offers came like clockwork, each one more insulting than the last. First, $600,000, generous for rustic land, she said, eyes shining like she was rescuing me from myself. I said no, quiet but firm, the way you talk to a horse that's about to bolt. Second offer, $750,000, glossy brochures sliding across my kitchen table, showing boutique hotels and vineyard tours and sunset yoga on lawns that used to be my pasture. I said no again, slower, so she'd feel the weight of it. Third offer, $500,000 flat. Take it before property values correct you, she warned, voice sweet as poisoned honey. I looked her dead in the eye and said no for the third and final time. And that's when the mask slipped clean off. 6 months later, a county permit appeared like magic, signed by commissioners who golf with Lydia on Tuesdays and owe her favors deeper than wells, declaring my creek the only viable outlet for their storm water under some vague public necessity clause. $8,000 and a handshake later, the pipe went in while I stood on the fence line smiling like a man who'd already won, folding the check into my pocket, telling her I'd spend it wisely, because Grandpa Elias drilled one lesson into me deeper than any well he ever dug. Pick your battles, son. But when you pick one, you end it so clean nobody ever forgets who held the sharper knife. A week after the pipe went live, my cattle stopped drinking. Not gradual, not picky, just flat refused. 40 head of black Angus standing 10 feet from water they'd known since they were calves, bawling like their hearts were breaking. If you've never heard a thirsty cow, let me tell you, it's a sound that'll follow you into dreams and wake you up sweating. I filled mason jars with creek water that looked clear but smelled faintly of chemicals, drove to the county extension office, waited 20 minutes that felt like 20 years while the tech ran tests, and when he came back his face was the color of old dishwater. pH spiked to 8.4, silt 4 times normal, diesel residue, concrete leach, fertilizer runoff, pool chlorine byproducts, the whole chemical cocktail. Recent contamination, he said, pushing the printout across the counter like it might bite him. Upstream construction, maybe. I had construction, all right, 600 feet of brand new HOA pipe dumping straight into the bloodstream of everything I loved. I tried the civilized route first, put on my least threatening flannel shirt, the one Clara says makes me look approachable, sat in Lydia's clubhouse office where the air conditioning could freeze whiskey solid, and the leather couch probably cost more than my first truck. I laid the lab results on her glass desk like evidence in a murder trial, asked polite as Sunday dinner for a settling pond, basic filtration, anything that said they gave a damn about the law or basic decency. She barely glanced at the papers, checked her platinum watch like I was a telemarketer who'd wandered in off the street. Our engineers certified the system environmentally neutral, she said, voice dripping with the kind of certainty money buys by the barrel. Maybe your cattle are stirring up sediment, Jack. Ever thought of rotating pastures or modernizing your operation? I felt my jaw lock so hard I tasted blood, but I kept it level, told her I was asking her to do the right thing before this got ugly. She smiled that smile that says I already own you and you just haven't noticed yet. Silver Pines represents $140 million in property value, she said, standing, turning to her floor-to-ceiling window like a queen surveying her conquered kingdom. Your ranch, generous estimate, maybe $800,000. The county agrees our needs outweigh yours. Sue us if you don't like it. Oh wait, you can't afford to. I left without another word. Drove home with the windows down so the hot wind could burn the smell of her perfume and her arrogance out of my nose. That night, I texted Darius. Pull the Silver Pines file. Every page, every clause, every comma. An hour later, the contract landed in my inbox. And there on page 17, Clause 7B glowed like gold in a creek bed. Environmental violation or upstream contamination allows rate adjustment up to 300% plus mandatory remediation at customer expense, plus Clause 9C that let me cut service entirely for breach. I didn't laugh, didn't cheer, just felt something cold and steady settle in my gut, the kind of calm that comes right before a storm breaks and changes the shape of the land forever. I bought 4 trail cams, military grade, motion triggered, hid them in mesquite thickets and cedar branches, checked the footage every night like a man checking traps, and on day 4 hit paydirt. HOA branded trucks, landscapers in logo polo shirts opening access hatches, dumping grass clippings, pool backwash, liquid fertilizer straight into the pipe like it was their personal landfill with a view. Time-stamped, high def, faces clear enough for a jury to read guilt from the back row, audio crystal. Just dump it. Nobody checks this thing. Then Lydia went to war. Full-color newsletter, thick glossy paper that cost more than my monthly diesel bill, slid into every mailbox in Silver Pines like a venomous snake. Headlines screaming local rancher endangers community water quality, my barn on the cover, unflattering telephoto angle, peeling paint circled in red like a crime scene. Anonymous quotes about overwhelming manure smells, rats the size of house cats, children drinking poison because some hillbilly refuses to sell his eyesore. My daughter Maggie, 26, first in our family with a doctorate, fresh out of vet school, and trying to open her own clinic, found one taped to her apartment door with a handwritten note in red ink. Your dad is killing our kids. My wife Clara, 4th grade teacher, heart made of pure sunlight, got an email CC'd to the entire school board questioning whether a documented polluter's wife should be allowed to shape young minds. Hate mail started sliding under our screen door like rattlesnakes, one calling me white trash poisoning good people's water, Another promising a class action lawsuit that would take the ranch and leave us homeless. Someone spray-painted liar on my mailbox in dripping red that looked like blood in the dawn light. I stopped going to the feed store during peak hours because friends of 15 years suddenly found reasons to cross the street when they saw me coming. I hired Dr. Patel, hydrologist with a PhD from Berkeley and Birkenstocks, who didn't care whose ego he bruised. 10 days later, 30 pages of science landed on my kitchen table like a verdict. Contamination originates upstream. Silver Pines drainage system, multiple Clean Water Act violations, felony territory. I made 6 copies, sent them certified mail to Lydia, County Environmental Office, State EPA, Commissioner Ben Caldwell, attached an invoice for $13,700. Environmental study, vet bills for cattle stress. The original $8,000 they paid me for the easement I never wanted. Silence. Then a zoning kid barely old enough to shave showed up, citing cattle limits that existed only in Lydia's imagination. Then one night at 3 a.m., I heard a truck idling out by the pipeline, grabbed my shotgun, didn't rack it, just let the sound of boots on gravel do the talking. Truck gone, but 50 feet of barbed wire cut clean with bolt cutters. Cattle wandering onto the golf course, eating grass watered twice a day like they'd found bovine heaven. Security guard calling the sheriff before he even said hello. $500 fine for livestock at large while bolt cutter marks still smoked in the dew. I stopped playing defense. Darius found 18% water overage every month for 2 years, 90,000 extra gallons, $23,000 in fees never billed because nobody thought to look. Sent the invoice certified, return receipt requested. Then 17 unpermitted fire hydrants spliced into the system like thieves tapping a bank vault. 2 illegal wells drilled straight into the aquifer that feeds Blue Ridge. Felony theft, felony contamination risk, fine starting at $10,000 a day. I called Lucia Ortega, environmental lawyer, Clara's college roommate, who eats HOAs for breakfast and spits out the bones. She read the file and laughed the laugh of a woman who just found a winning lottery ticket in a coat pocket. "How far are you willing to go, Jack?" "All the way," I said, and meant it down to the marrow in my bones. We built a bypass with neighbors, $6,000 in PVC and gravel. July heat, so thick you could chew it, shirts soaked through by 9 a.m., cold Shinerbach from an ice chest at sunset, while the post driver thudded home like a heartbeat. Trail cams kept rolling. Lawsuit filed. Story leaked to Rita Morales at the Silo County Gazette. Woman who'd watched this county turn from cattle ranches to golf courses and wasn't happy about it. Termination clock started ticking on Blue Ridge water. 30 days to cure or taps go dry. Every night Clara found me at the kitchen table surrounded by evidence thick as a phone book, coffee cold, eyes burning, and she'd set a cup of chamomile tea beside me without a word because she knows that look, knows I'm not angry anymore. I'm surgical. Then the sky opened up, 9 inches of rain in 18 hours, the kind of storm that turns dry creek beds into raging brown rivers and tests every lie ever told about infrastructure. The pipe burst at 2:17 a.m., sound like the world splitting open, gray-brown poison flooding 12 acres of my lower pasture. Hay crop ruined, fences washed out like toothpicks, $38,000 in damage captured on drone footage and real-time sensors we'd installed for exactly this moment. Silver Pines lost water for 36 hours, brown sludge dripping from designer faucets, Facebook melting down, board members screaming in all caps, one guy yelling he paid $900 a month in HOA fees and couldn't even flush his toilet. Lydia tried eminent domain, tried the original developer, tried every favor she'd ever banked. Every door slammed. She was radioactive, and the smell was finally reaching her own manicured porch. Town hall night. County courthouse packed so tight the fire marshal gave up counting. 240 souls crammed into a room built for 200, air thick with sweat, and the kind of tension that makes your skin itch. I sat in the back, ball cap low, just another rancher in faded Wranglers and scuffed boots. Lydia front row, lawyer Bradley Finch beside her, both looking like they'd aged a decade in a week. Lucia took the podium like she was born for it. Projector screens bigger than my barn doors showing cut fences, poison water, HOA employees dumping waste on camera, intimidation text traced to a burner phone bought on Lydia's personal credit card. EPA regional officer promised fines north of $200,000 and possible criminal charges. Crowd turned on Lydia like wolves smelling blood in the snow. Then I walked up slow, boots loud on linoleum, and the room went so quiet you could hear hearts breaking. I looked Lydia dead in the eye, let the silence stretch until it hurt. "You kept telling me I was just a rancher," I said, voice calm enough to cut glass. Pulled the Blue Ridge ownership papers from my jacket like a magician revealing the final card. "I've owned your water for 15 years. The room exploded, gasps, curses. Someone actually shouted "holy shit" loud enough to echo off the rafters. I laid out the terms. Pipeline gone within 60 days, 100 grand damages. Lydia resigns effective immediately. Conservation easement protecting 80 acres in perpetuity. 12 hours, or the taps go dry tomorrow morning and stay dry until a new provider can be found, which, given the EPA violations, could take months. She ran out mid-sentence, heels clicking like gunshots on tile. Lawyer chasing her with his phone already to his ear begging for a miracle that wasn't coming. Next morning at 8:03, Bradley Finch called Lucia, agreed to every single term without negotiation. Lydia resigned in a 2-line email that didn't even try to explain. Criminal charges pending for witness intimidation, real estate license under review, for investment, houses hitting the market before the banks could foreclose. Sometimes karma doesn't need a push, just a clear path and enough rope. Pipeline came out in 60 days. Land restored by certified environmental contractors at HOA expense. Check cleared. Easement recorded in county stone, so deep no future Lydia can dig it up. I took half the money, started the Elias Harlan Water Justice Fund, pro bono lawyers, free water testing, grants for families fighting developers with deeper pockets than sense. First check went to a young couple 2 counties over whose irrigation rights were being stolen by another golf course. Circle keeps turning. We threw a pipeline removal barbecue. 50 people on the ranch. Brisket smoked 18 hours. Kids splashing in a creek finally running clear. Fireflies blinking like victory lights in the dusk. Maggie opened her vet clinic debt-free with the other half of the settlement. Clara got her husband back, mostly. New HOA board asked about a creek restoration festival every spring. Kids planting native grasses. Golf course cutting pesticide use 60% and installing rainwater capture. We're not friends, we'll never be friends, but we're square, and sometimes square is enough. Some nights I sit on the porch, boots off, cold beer sweating in my hand, watching cattle graze on land no one can ever take again. Rufus snoring at my feet, Clara beside me pouring lemonade like the war never happened. Any regrets? Just one, should have charged them interest. Now I gotta ask you, whoever made it to the end of this long, winding road, where's the line between justice and vengeance? When someone poisons your water, threatens your daughter's career, tries to steal the only thing your grandfather left you with High's dying breath, is it righteous to shut their water off in front of the whole county, watch their empire crumble on the 6 o'clock news, or did I cross into the same darkness I was fighting? Was I patient or just cruel with better evidence and deeper pockets of my own? Drop your story below, no judgment, just truth, because the more we talk, the harder it gets for the next Lydia to think she can take what isn't hers.